B-2 Spirit stealth bomber suddenly appears in Alaska during the Trump-Putin meeting. In the midst of a tense geopolitical atmosphere, an interesting scene unfolded in Alaska, where a pair of U.S. Air Force 2 Spirit stealth bombers were seen landing at Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska. What made this moment particularly striking was the timing of their arrival, which coincided with the summit meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin. This immediately sparked speculation. Were these aircraft coincidentally present for routine military exercises, or were they deliberately showcased as a symbol of American power to send a subtle message to Russia? For many observers, it is difficult not to interpret the presence of these bombers as a meaningful strategic signal, especially because the B-2 Spirit is one of the most secretive and lethal military assets owned by the United States. The certainty of the B-2 Spirit's arrival at Elmendorf is not merely rumor. This can be confirmed through flight tracking data, air traffic control tower recordings, and eyewitnesses on the ground who recognized the bomber's distinctive stealth silhouette as it landed at the base. All of this evidence indicates that on August 14th, the B-2 Spirit did indeed arrive in Alaska. Elmendorf itself is a key air base in the region and plays a crucial role in U.S. air defense, particularly in countering potential threats from Russia, which lies geographically close to Alaska. Elmendorf Air Base is home to a wide variety of fighter and support aircraft. Among them are the F-22 Raptor, one of the most advanced stealth fighters in existence, early warning radar aircraft capable of coordinating large-scale air operations, the C-17 Globemaster, 3 heavy transport aircraft, and the C-12 light utility plane. The base also hosts the Alaska Air National Guard, operating HC-130 Combat King rescue aircraft and HH-60 Pave Hawk helicopters. It is not uncommon to see RC-135 Rivet joint intelligence aircraft conducting electronic surveillance missions in sensitive areas from there. In short, Elmendorf serves as one of America's most comprehensive forward air power hubs, especially in facing potential threats from both the Pacific and the Arctic. When asked about the reasons behind the B-2 Spirit's arrival in Alaska, U.S. Northern Command, NORCOM, directed inquiries straight to the White House. This stance only reinforced suspicions that the mission was linked to high-level geopolitical considerations, rather than being just another routine exercise. It is true that Alaska is currently hosting Northern Edge 2025, a major biennial military exercise designed to test the joint capabilities of various U.S. military branches in modern warfare scenarios. Elmendorf's official website confirmed that the exercise began on August 13th and will run through August 29th, 2025, spanning multiple locations across Alaska and other U.S. bases in the state. The B-2 Spirit has previously participated in such exercises, so its involvement this year is not entirely surprising. However, there is still a key difference this time. The B-2 Spirit is no ordinary aircraft. It was designed in the final years of the Cold War to penetrate Soviet air defenses and deliver strategic nuclear strikes. Its futuristic design renders it nearly invisible to radar, making it one of the most feared weapons in the world. Only a few months ago, it was used to strike Iranian nuclear facilities in an operation codenamed Midnight Hammer. This fact underscores that the B-2's presence in Alaska is not just symbolic. It represents real power that can be employed at any given moment. Because of its history closely tied to strategic deterrence against the Soviet Union, every time the B-2 Spirit appears in regions bordering Russia, it is inevitably linked to political signaling. And indeed, its arrival at Elmendorf cannot be separated from the context of the Trump-Putin summit, especially considering Trump's recent tough statements toward Russia. For example, on August 1st, he wrote on social media that he had ordered 2 nuclear submarines to be deployed to the right location in response to nuclear threats made by former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, now Deputy Chairman of Russia's Security Council. Although Trump did not specify which type of submarines, many suspected he was referring to Ohio-class submarines carrying ballistic or cruise missiles. Trump also issued stern warnings of very severe consequences if Putin rejected a peace deal to end the war in Ukraine. At one point, he even mentioned considering a multilateral meeting involving Putin, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and several European leaders, though he ultimately stuck with the bilateral format in Elmendorf. Against this backdrop, It is no surprise that the B-2 Spirit's arrival was seen as part of a power demonstration aimed at influencing Putin's stance in his meeting with Trump. And that suspicion was ultimately confirmed on the day of the summit itself. One of the B-2 Spirits was seen flying low over Elmendorf Air Base, flanked by 4 F-35 Joint Strike Fighters, precisely as Trump and Putin arrived and greeted each other on the runway. This aerial display was clearly not coincidental. It was a carefully orchestrated show of force. Other F-35s were also seen in the skies, most likely providing escort for each leader's presidential aircraft upon landing. On the ground, rows of F-22 Raptors were neatly lined up around the red carpet rolled out to welcome both Putin and Trump. All of it formed a stage of military might deliberately displayed in front of the Russian leader's eyes. Another video circulating showed the presidential motorcades of both leaders passing directly by another B-2 Spirit parked visibly close by. Later, U.S. officials confirmed that 2 B-2 Spirits were indeed stationed at Elmendorf at the time, one used for the aerial display, the other parked as a silent witness, still capable of sending a powerful symbolic message to anyone watching. Officials further clarified that the B-2 Spirit's presence in Alaska on this occasion was not part of Northern Edge 2025, but was entirely intended to support Trump's visit and his meeting with Putin. This makes it clear that the B-2 Spirit's arrival was no coincidence. Their presence was part of a U.S. military communication strategy, a silent language not spoken aloud, yet fully understood by the adversary. The message itself was straightforward. The United States still possesses its ultimate weapon, ready to be used at any time, and it is not afraid to showcase it directly in front of the Russian president. In international diplomacy, especially in matters involving war, such displays of strength are often used to exert psychological pressure and negotiate from a position of greater advantage. The B-2 Spirit remains one of America's ultimate trump cards in maintaining global dominance. It is not just a technical weapon, but also a political symbol. With a single flight over Alaska, the aircraft can send a message to Russia, Europe, and the entire world that the United States still holds the reins of international security. The events at Elmendorf stand as a vivid example of how a weapon of war can serve as an instrument of diplomacy on the global stage.